Joined now by Ireland's Mick McCarthy. Selection out, I'd imagine, like many as a manager, you're probably lying in bed at night, losing sleep, thinking, who do I take, who do I leave at home?
There is a bit of that, yeah. I try not to do it when I'm in my bed, I have to be honest. It does get like that, because even after the last 2 games that we won, and then other players suddenly become available, thinking, well, should I be taking them who were originally in the squad in the last one? Or do you keep the same squad? Well, that's the conundrum. That's the one I have to solve.
And then there's the other conundrums where you play players and then, like as you said yourself, like Matt Doherty didn't work out where you played him before. Is that another conundrum then? So not only are you deciding who do I bring, who do I leave at home, and out of the people you do bring, are you thinking, where am I going to put him?
Of course, yeah. That's team selection. It's the same whatever you're doing, whether you're at a club or a country. You might be, how do you pick them in the first place? Your recruitment. Then when you've picked them, and they all want to play, believe me, there's none of them turn up and think, oh, I'll be happy sat on the bench. So that's my job. That's what I have to do.
So how do you come to the actual decision?
By training with them, watching them train. Of course, when you see them play, going and watching them when they're not with me and watching them play. You see all the characters, you see all about them, you know what they can give, what they're good at, what they're not so good at. And I make a decision based on all those things.
Does the gut ever come into it?
Yes. Yeah, he does. Sometimes you just have a feel for it. But you also know his qualities, the player that we're talking about. But it might be somebody that's been carrying an injury, for instance, but you have that gut feel, you know he'll get through it. Or equally, you might know somebody might not get through it as well. So, yeah, the gut does come into it.
The selection has been described as an attacking-minded selection, but let's go back to the backs all the way, the man behind between the sticks. Mark Travers as an example, young gentleman, very, very young. He's selected. What are you seeing in him? Obviously, we saw he had a great weekend, this weekend in particular.
Well, it was no surprise to me. I was called by Alan McInally, and they asked me, who was doing the Sky game, and said, Mark Travers was this lad. So I told him, I said, he's great, he'll be fine. He was terrific. Everybody was impressed by him when he came in with us, and a lovely young man as well. So it was no surprise to me he played that well, and I'm glad I gave him the big up, because he didn't let me down. So impressed. He's going to be a good goalkeeper. Shea Given made his debut at 19. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute he's the next Shea Given, so let me not put that in. But age is not a problem, you know. It's his own ability.
That was actually going to be my next question. Youth can work both ways. It can be when you're so young, you don't know any different, nothing phases or fears you. On the other hand, you can get overwhelmed. So I'd imagine when you're looking at young gentlemen like Mark Travers, are you thinking, which way is he going to go? And I suppose the only way to know that is to watch him play.
It is.
And to give him the big game performances as well.
It is understanding his personality as well, how he handled being in the first team squad when he came. He was very calm about it, very mature for a 19-year-old young man. Really calm individual, trained that way, didn't get flustered, listened to everything that was said to him, but certainly by Alan Kelly, and Alan Kelly thought he was excellent. So it wasn't a surprise to me that he handled it. And yeah, you know, youngsters can get flustered. The problem is when it doesn't go well, and you're a youngster, how do you come back from that one? You know, if you're a bit older, more mature, it's probably happened to you, and you'll come back. But listen, you can only applaud him on his first game. He was brilliant.
Somebody else, I'm sure many as an Irish person would be delighted to see him back, Shane Long, and the form, for the want of a better phrase, had dipped. But not only is he not injured anymore, he's actually scoring, which I'm sure makes your heart dance a little bit.
It's great to see him back. For him, you know, I don't like to see footballers suffering with what they do they do when they're at the best, and they enjoy it so much. And that was Shane. Shane's had a great career. He's been a Premier League footballer most of his career, and he had injuries. The goals dried up. He came to us and he got injured, had to go back. That was really upsetting for him. So to see him coming back and playing, but even more so scoring goals and playing well, that's brilliant.
This might be a difficult question to answer, but when you see a player of the quality of Shane Long, who was scoring goals left, right and centre, and all of a sudden they dry up, there didn't seem to be any particular reason for it. Why does that happen, and what can you do to help bring a player back?
If I knew why goal scorers stopped scoring, I'd write the manual, I'd sell it, and I would be a billionaire, because I just don't know, and I don't know why it comes back either. I've seen it happen so often where players go weeks and weeks and weeks without scoring, and suddenly they score 5 in 5. Where's it been? I haven't got a clue.
So, but you must have spent years trying to figure it out, I'm assuming. Have you just accepted now this is just one of those things?
I have, but in the meantime, when they're not scoring, you keep doing the same things they did prior to them scoring, and keep working with them, keep trying to put the ball in the net, keep making the runs, keep trying to lose the defenders in the box. All of those things, left foot, right foot, headers, and it will come back. We don't just stop and say, oh, well, he's not scoring. You keep trying to help them, but even through that, it might be 4, 5, 6, could be 10 games they don't score. Thank goodness it does come back.
The thing is, though, whilst an individual is not scoring, there might be somebody else who, on paper, we might say, well, he's not as good as him. But if he might be scoring, you have to come and make that decision then and say, you might not be 5-star, you're 4.5-star, but 4.5 is better than a 5-star who's not doing it.
It's a fairly logical conclusion, that to it. But look, you can't have it all ways, somehow. It's what they contribute as well. If they're not if they're a goal scorer, absolutely only goal scorer, don't contribute a great deal else. If they're not scoring, that makes it difficult for them. But if you're like Shane Long, who, when he's not scoring goals, he's still running in the channels, he's still jumping into people, he's still creating goals for others, then he's got a chance.
Moving on from the actual individuals, you're obviously looking into now a few very important games. You probably have more time with the squad this time as well, rather than the last time, which is bound to be a help. Of
course, yeah, we've got far more time. We've got the week we're meeting up in Portugal on the 21st to the 28th. We don't play Denmark and Copenhagen until the 7th, plus the 10 days I had with them before, plus the 2 games I had with them before. I'm a lot more knowledgeable and wiser about the players that I've got than I was in March when we started.
Because you're the Irish international manager, obviously you've the whole island of Ireland to look at players. You've got England, Wales, Scotland as well. You can't get around everywhere. I'm sure you've probably seen a lot more now than you did back in March, obviously. But, when you do look at the squad, you realise there's still just one Maire Treasa League player in there. So what do the guys who are playing in Ireland have to do to step up? Do they have to leave Ireland? Or is the talent here for an Irish person to be playing in Ireland to end up on the international squad?
Very good question. But you probably know, I know, and everybody else in this room knows that when they are doing well, all the players want to leave and go and play in England, where if they get to play in the Premier League and the riches and everything that comes with it, that's where they want to go and play. And to improve, you have to move on to a better standard, which, whether it's in the second division to the first, to the Championship, to the Premier League, that's what's going to happen. So all they can keep doing while they're here is playing and doing their best, and might get selected.
That's the thing. So you do your best in Ireland. I'm just wondering, obviously I'm not an elite footballer, I wouldn't have a clue, but I'd be thinking, are you better off being the big fish in the small pond, or go off to the big massive pond and be that teeny tiny fish lost somewhere playing for Halifax? I'll use them as an example. Which do you think is better for a player's development and confidence?
It's funny I would use Halifax as an example.
I don't know why I chose Halifax, I just did.
I played there, let me tell you, you're probably right. No, you're better off being the big fish in the big pond.
But if you're not going to be the big fish in the big pond, which one are you better off in then?
Well, look, whichever pond fits you. You don't... I thought we were footballers, we're now swimming, we're swimmers. You find your level and you be the very best you can at that level, whatever it might be. And so whether we're talking about League of Ireland, and there are some good players here, it's whether they stay here and play and earn a living and do really well and win trophies. And I've signed lots of Irish players. Some have been great successes, others have come over to England and gone back. And some have then gone back again. Everybody wants to ply the trade at the very highest possible. I'm sure you do.
That's why I'm working with Off the Ball. I think that's a good place to leave it. Mick McCarthy, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.